Nuestra sección es ¿Cómo llegaron? Y es una iniciativa que hacemos en W Radio para entender cómo estos CEOs globales, esta gente de muchísimo éxito, esta gente que ha tenido logros que son envidia de muchos, llegaron a ser quienes son, cómo se construyeron, cuál es su historia. Porque al final, como les he dicho siempre, el público ve el resultado, pero pocas veces tenemos oportunidad de ver el proceso de la gente, claro, que ha tenido éxito. Y siempre me ha parecido muy importante compartir el proceso, porque al final el que quiere el resultado tiene que abrazar el proceso. Y el proceso, que es lo más complicado, el behind the scenes de la vida de alguien, son cosas que pocas veces se comparten. Y entonces decidimos crear esta sección en donde tenemos a gente muy exitosa, prominente, de diferentes industrias, de diferentes partes del mundo. Y hoy no saben a quién tengo en el estudio desde Turquía con amor. Es el CEO de la marca global de Chobani, que saben que es una empresa líder en fabricación de alimentos, mejor conocido como el rockstar del yogurt. Entonces, todos ustedes que aman el yogur Chobani, aquí está con nosotros Hamdi Ulukaya, desde Turquía, para cantarnos su historia. Hello, my friend.
Hello, thank you.
Okay, first of all, because we love languages on the show, speak to us in Turkish.
Oh my God.
Remind me of my Turkish passion.
Seni çok seviyorum. Meksika'da olmaktan çok gururluyum, onurluyum. Memleketiniz, tüm insanlarınız, yemekleriniz, kültürünüz o kadar güzel ki aşık olmamak imkansız.
Me recuerda a mi novio. Quiero llorar. Así mi exnovio, claro. Claro.
I said,
what did you say?
I said, I am so happy and honored to be in Mexico and be with you. Your country, your people, your culture is so beautiful.
You said güzel.
It's impossible to not
You
fall
said
in love.
güzel.
Evet,
You said
çok güzel, of course.
Çok güzel. Çok güzel es muy preciosísimo. Muy precioso. Yeah, very beautiful.
Very beautiful.
Very beautiful. Pero how did you create the brand, and how did you become who you are?
Yeah.
And how did you take a brand global?
Is it a combination of a lot of accidents? Seriously. And I love what you said, embrace the process. I never planned on leaving Turkey. I had to leave. It just happened really quickly. One day, the police took me from the street, and it was 1994. I was writing in a newspaper about human rights, Kurdish rights, human rights, in a newspaper as a college student. And that was tough times in Turkey, the government, the police, and the political issues. And they let me go within one day, which was very lucky. And the person who let me go, he said, no one walked in to this place and leaving the way that you are. Yeah. So I always say it was my mother's prayer. Something happened that day, that person acted the way that he did. Left, and I was talking to my friends. I said, I have to get out. All my friends got out. They were all going to Europe, Germany, France. And I said, I have to get out. And I said, I'm going to France. And complete stranger, heard me talking about, don't be stupid, go to America. Mm-hmm. I turned around. I look at the guy. I said, there's no way I'm going to this capitalist empire. How the Turks talk, when you're young.
Of course.
But it struck me, and then I waited for him the next day at my brother's store, and I said, how do you go to America? And he gave me some instructions. And that was late 1994. And I arrived with a couple of $1,000 in my pocket with no English and a small bag. And everything happens within 1 month. And I'm completely shocked, and I had no plan of leaving. And here I am in New York.
In New York.
New York.
So this is 1994.
Yes, and you're taking me to that time. I'm 22 years old. I'm scared. I'm lost. Everything happened very fast. And at home, my mother even picked me a woman I was going to marry. I mean, it was a whole life was planned on me. And I'm now in this place on my own. And my money ran out within 1.5 months. Mm-hmm. I actually did a speech on the university I went for the first 1.5 months. And I did a graduation speech last year. And I told them about, how I came. my first job was I started washing dishes in a Turkish community center, and I started going to a cheaper school. In that school, a teacher asked me to write a homework, how to make something in English.
Yeah.
So I tried to write how to make cheese, because my family is farmers. We are from northeast Turkey, Kurds. We sheep herders. We make yogurt. We make cheese. Far away from everybody. We normally, don't go to towns and cities. No one remembers us. And I tried to write how to make cheese. And the teacher the next week has my paper in her hand and talking to me very loud, very stressful. And I was getting a little worried if I wrote something wrong. And I brought another Turkish person to explain to me what she was telling me. And turns out that she has a farm in upstate New York, and she has goats and cows, and she's inviting me to go to her farm for a weekend so we can make some cheese together. And I went there. I never left. I asked them to live there and work in that farm. So I worked in that farm for a year and a half. And that's how I fell in love in America. In New York, I couldn't breathe. But when I went to upstate in that farm, it looked like my home where I grew up. It was the river and the trees and the cows.
Of course. So from that point until you created Chobani, what happened in a nutshell?
I think getting to that farm is really the reason I stayed in America. Yeah. If it was New York, I don't think I could have survived. Yeah. And there I learned true culture of Americans. I really get to know the people. And there I started thinking about maybe I can do business, because growing up, Martha, I never liked business. I grew up in this idea of if there is problems in society, if there are a lot of injustice, and if there's so much poor, but yet there's so much rich, and that gap is because of the rich people, because of the capitalism, because of the unfair system that is set up. So I always kept my distance from commerce. I never liked it. But upstate New York, I saw a different version of business. I thought business can be involved in communities and business. So the first time I said, maybe I'll make cheese. Maybe I'll do something that I learned from home so I can make an income instead of working a farm every day. It's a hard job, that I could do something different.
Of course. So you thought you could probably make a difference.
I could make it something. Yeah. I mean, I've never studied business. I never worked business. I never worked anywhere. I have never seen anyone who started business. So I started making cheese and make it a little bit faster. It will be a longer story. One day, I'm sitting in my small office. I'm smoking, and tea is very dirty. It's wintertime. And I saw this ad. It comes from a junk mail, and it says, fully equipped yogurt plant for sale. And I look, I throw it. And I keep going. And then about 20 minutes later, I went back to the garbage can. I grabbed that paper. Now it's filled with ashes and waters and all that stuff. I said, I called the number. And I called the number. And the person answered is a real estate agent in Utica, and said, yes, it's a factory that is owned by Kraft, and they sold the yogurt business. This factory is for sale. I said, how much it is? I said, $700,000. I look at the pictures. There's pictures in that paper. Yeah. And I know how much does it cost to buy tanks and fillers and all that stuff. I said, he must have forgot 1 0. It can't be that cheap. But I didn't ask because I didn't want him to think that I was, I said, I come see it tomorrow. And I went to see it the next day. It took me 4 hours, even though it's only 50 miles from where I was. It took me 4 hours to find it. It was middle of nowhere, in a small village.
But you don't have the $700,000.
I don't have the $700,000,
exactly.
But I still go.
Claro.
Yeah, no, nothing. I have no money. So I go.
This is a perfect example how opportunities pass by us all the time. But if you're not awake, if you're not properly focused, if you're not paying attention,
if you're not present,
you will lose them. You threw that opportunity, and 20 minutes later, you grabbed it back. Yeah. So you don't have $700,000. You go visit the factory, and then.
So I find the place. It's sad place. It's just closed down. A big company just closed it. Yeah. And the people, around 55 of them, they're closing it. They're just shutting down. And then one person whose name is Rich, he showed me the factory. He says, this is where we do this is where we do this. It's been there for 70 years, 70, 80 years. It's a small town, in this factory, everybody works there. And when I left, I called my attorney. His name is Mario Papa. I said, Mario, I just saw a factory I want to buy. He said, slow down. I said, I'm talking very slow, very fast. And he said, wait. A largest food company in the world is closing this place. And they're leaving the yogurt business.
Yeah.
And this idiot Turk think that he can do something with this.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. So he tries to convince me that this was not a good idea. I said, Mario, no, it is. I can make good yogurt. It's a good factory. It's cheap. He said, Hamdi, you don't have money. And just to let you know, the last 6 months, you haven't paid my money either. You owe me $20,000. So you don't have money. So he's right. A large company is closing this factory and is leaving. Big problem.
Why would you?
Make it
what
work? Do you think that who
Why
you
would
are?
You make it
yeah,
work?
yeah.
So,
who you think you are?
This is my first question. Yeah. How do you believe in yourself when nobody else does?
Exactly.
Because that's a great lesson for everybody listening.
Right. And this is today it's very easy for me to trust myself because I have a track record of doing things.
Of course.
Until that moment, I mean, my mother thought I was the best thing ever. Let's put them aside. But I haven't done anything that's significant to prove that I have done something.
Yeah.
I go back to that moment, walking into that factory, and something like immediately hit me, Marta, that first I was angry that this was closed. And the second, I come back to this line I really later I discovered. It says, when there is ruin, when there is ruins, there might be treasure. You know, I went to this most amazing museum yesterday. You have remains from Aztecs and Mayas, and sometimes you look at the remains and say, well, this must be old and dirt and no value. But actually, there might be some treasure in there because it's a science. And I actually saw the people, and it reminded me that people that I grew up with, and in there is a combination of many things, and I thought I could make something really, how, when, how big, I don't know, but something, I can do something here, that it was a very strong voice. And I always hold on to that strong voice.
Well, I just gave last year a speech at Harvard Business School talking about the power of intuition. And I think that was what you felt. It was your intuition. Yeah. And it's all about sometimes trusting your intuition and resisting the lack of cheerleaders and applause and people who believe in you, because the best decision isn't always the most popular.
Yes.
No? And so
I said to Mario, I said, I'm going to buy it. I have to find a way. So I saw these two bankers. And you see, sometimes people come to your life from so many different dimensions and you don't know why. Another opportunity. I said, how can I buy this plan? Someone named is Pat Mucci. He said, Hamdi, if you write a business plan, and I have never wrote a business plan in my life, if we make the Small Business Administration agree, if they give us a loan guarantee, the government give us a loan guarantee, the bank will give you a loan so you can buy the factory. That's exactly what we did. And August 15, 2005, I have the key for the factory.
So from 2005, how did you pick out the name?
It means shepherd, pastor.
We didn't know that.
Because I grew up with shepherds up in the mountains.
And it's a Turkish word.
And that happened because I was driving from Chicago to Wisconsin to buy one piece of equipment is used that I found on the internet. That without that I cannot make yogurt.
Yeah.
And I'm driving there. It's very boring, one of the most boring drive. And in there, maybe there was a Christian radio. They were talking about shepherds, whatever it is. I was like, oh, what about Chobani?
Now.
I will summarize it with this way, Marta. First thing I did, I asked the manager in the factory, I said, who should I hire? He said, this is Maria. She answered the question here in this factory for 15 years. She knows all the suppliers, so you should hire her. This is Rich. He knows all the manufacturing here. You should hire him. He's almost like 20 years. This is Mike, who knows how to fix everything. There's no blueprint. There's no paper where the lines and electricity.
Yeah.
But he knows in his mind. He retired here. You should have him. If he dies, you cannot even turn on the, something
So
happens.
surround yourself of people who know more than you.
Exactly. And then there was this guy, Frank, who knows how to turn on the wastewater side. When you throw the wastewater, at least there is something working. 4 of them, me, August 15, 2005, we sit around the table. These are 4 factory workers and me. We had our first board meeting. And I call it board meeting.
Yeah, you call it board meeting.
Said, Mike, who is the guy who drives Harley motorcycle, he's very shy. He retired, he came back. He said, Hamdi, tell me, what's the plan now? What are we going to do?
Yeah.
I said, we're going to go to paint store, and we're going to buy some red and white paints and some brushes, and we're going to paint the wall outside. Mike said, Hamdi, those walls has not been painted in the last 25 years. Tell me you have more plans. The reason they're asking me is they're trying to find if this Turco
knows what he's doing.
knows what he's doing.
Exactly.
And based on what I'm going to say, they're going to make a life plan, whether they're going to stay there or they're going to go find some other jobs.
Exactly.
But I don't have a lot of things to show. I don't have any plans. I have no idea what I'm going to do next.
Yeah.
But at least the paint of the walls are really bad. I can do something about it. So the first thing I said, let's paint the walls. That summer, we paint those walls, 4 of us. People used to joke and said, oh, you forgot this way, you forgot that way. And today, if you go to Chobani's offices, they always says, let's start painting the walls. The point I'm making is, I didn't know what I was going to do next, but I knew we could paint the walls. Instead of sitting and waiting to thinking what you're going to do, when you start thinking in action, something magical start happening. That summer we painted those walls. 5 years after that painting, that factory was selling yogurt worth $1 billion.
How many years after were you selling $1 billion?
5 years.
But the amazing lesson is many people think that they're not ready. Yeah. They have to plan. They have to have a business plan. They have to be super organized. They're always waiting for the perfect scenario to start. There's no perfect scenario.
There's no perfect scenario.
You just have to fucking start.
Yeah, jump in.
You have to trust that things will solve themselves along the way.
Yes.
But success is for the doers.
Yes. Not only trust, you have to submit yourself to that trust. It has to be complete relief that I'm going to jump and I'm going to accept what the result is going to be.
See, it's like a full commitment. It's a full commitment. We have our version of Shark Tank. It's called Enchúlame el Changarro. And we have judges and we have mentors. And tomorrow we have our 10 finalists that will come and pitch our companies, their companies. And they want the big prize, which is, almost $25,000. And all the exposure they get. And obviously they all want to build their company and take it to the next stage. Sure. How do you do that? What would be your best piece of advice for everybody listening?
I never studied business. I've never been to a business environment. I was very distant from the business, basically, as a mental person. Until recently, I never even read a business book, to be honest with you. So for me, it had to be a discovery. And I had enormous amount of problem the way that businesses were conducting itself. So I didn't want to repeat the craft that closed the factory. I didn't want to repeat what they wanted to do. I wanted to be myself, something that aligned with me, something that is aligned with my values, and something that I learned up in the mountains with the shepherds, with the nomads, something that is lived in that community also where I was starting. So basically, thinking that business is something different than life is something that I discovered that is not true. The best thing you can do is create your own reality in business. Of course, there are some standards of business that you can always get.
How do you mean?
I said, if I can make the food, that I will give it to my own children. Like food has to be really good. Like ingredients has to be really, really good.
Mediterranean food is so good, by
So
the way.
good. And no preservatives, a little bit sugar, not too much sugar, just perfect product. Second, if I make everyone work here, is part of it. Like if they can be part of this. So that's why Chobani's 10% is divided between all factory employees. Everybody owns it. And if I said, if I can make this accessible, meaning if I can have everyone to enjoy this, and if I can find out to keep the business extremely simple, where I can understand, and if I can make sure that if I sold piece of it, if I raise capital, and which I avoided very good, that no one forced me to sell it early on. I can keep it for the longest time. These were the early days. Everything else will be okay. Today, Chobani is close to 3 billion in sales. We are number one yogurt brand in the country. We have 80% control of our company. 20% is actually pension fund of nurses of Canada. We don't have any financial institution in our company. We break all the business records. And everyone asked, what's the point? I said, open your company to solve problems in society and community. Do not center yourself in profits first. Center yourself on solving some significant problems. Open it to diversity. Let refugees and migrants to come work with you. Don't look at the resumes. Look at the human spirit and what they can do, not what they have, put it in there. And if you put all of those and have complete attention of saying business is a perfect place to make enormous amount of shift on humanity, on community, and differences on people's life, it's already good for business anyway. You'll be faster, you'll be more innovative, you'll be more profitable, you'll have all dimension of breaking all the records in business. And I said that this is anti-CEO business, model.
Yeah.
And everything else, there are enormous amount of values listening to the others, including myself sometimes, but I basically close my ears to everybody. I listen to myself and I try to hear the sounds, not the noise.
What would be your best business advice to everybody beyond what you just said?
If you're an entrepreneur, if you're in a journey of business, rule number one, see people as they are, without stereotyping, without labels. And every single person has an enormous amount of value that needs to be discovered. I didn't know I could do all of those things until I put myself into this kind of pressure. And I realized I could do branding, I could do innovation, I could do, leadership, or all that kind of stuff. I had no idea I could do all those things. I think there's a lot of value on every single one of us, and give chance to people. And the second one is hire refugees and migrants and let that magic to happen in your place. Just let that happen. And it happened to me, and I think it is one of the biggest reasons Chobani is what it is today, is multicultural diversity, as every single person brings, as who they are, without trying to be somebody else, and create something authentic to that person. And you'll see this magic happens even though you don't know where you're going, but how you're going to get out of this. It's just not happening.